Welcome to another edition of the Racing Room. It is me, AK, hosting this week because Ronan, I actually don't even know where Ronan is. You know, AK Bets is getting too big where you don't even know where the podcast host is. He just was unavailable. I don't even know what he's doing. So you get me, AK, hosting again this week, and joined by the irrepressible Tony Calvin and the trying to think of
what's coming,
but I'm struggling.
What's coming?
Harry Stewart Moore, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, that's better. They're adjectives. Yeah. How are you, AK? Do you have a profitable weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, record turnover day on Saturday for AK Bets again. We actually didn't make any money, which I suppose is the ultimate aim. But it was a record turnover day, probably helped by the recycling of funds in customers' accounts as they were winning, I'd say. And then Sunday was very good. Sunday was just a good day. All the results fell our way. The Arc.
Is Longchamp a big betting meeting for you?
It'd be one of the bigger ones of international racing for sure. The Arc wasn't far off, probably because of the way we priced it, but the Arc wasn't far off the Grand National in terms of bet count for us.
Wow.
We have to consider we're off a smaller sample size, etc. But
but still.
Yeah, we bet it very hard, and that was probably evident to a lot of people. And yeah, wasn't as big as the national, but bet count wise, we were very high. So I was actually surprised. I was getting updates from the lads, and I was thinking we must have been making an absolute balls of pricing it, to be honest with you, because the bets were flying in. So it was all good, all good. What have you guys been up to? Any news?
Yeah, I had a big party for my grandson's first yesterday. That was good fun.
Very good.
I didn't watch any of the racing live, but yeah, hard luck story in the Arc, I think, from my point of view. But I'll come on to that in the racing with you. Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that. I don't know if you've seen it. The news on Lewis Moody's been diagnosed with motor neurone disease.
I saw that this morning.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's in a long list of rugby players and rugby league and rugby union, obviously most famously Rob Burrow. But I was just thinking about, I know it's a grim way to start. I just can't think of a worse disease to get, just not for yourself, but for your family, because you know what's coming down the line and you can't stop it. I was just thinking, I can't think of a worse diagnosis to get.
That is very sad.
It's a ticking time bomb, isn't it? It's fairly horrible, all right. But without knowing anything about it, do rugby players over-index on this stuff? And I
don't know. I mean, there's a lot of high-profile ones, and you've got the likes of Rob Burrow, obviously Doddy Weir famously, guy who used to play for Gloucester and Leicester. Ed Slater's going through the final stages of it at the moment. Okay. So yeah, you Vuse van der Reste's and got it a few years back as well. So yeah, it's probably, you don't know for sure, but it seems to be a disproportionate number of rugby players involved, but I wouldn't know. But I was just listening to the interview with his wife, sitting there silent, and
Jesus,
he's just so grim.
Yeah, no.
And I just can't believe of all these years and all the money they've thrown at it, they don't seem to be anywhere close to getting a solution for it. And like I said, it's just a gradual and sudden decline. That's, like I said, it's disaster for a family.
Very sad.
No, definitely. That's a somber note to start the pod anyway, and hopefully we wish them all well anyway. On a slightly lighter note, did anybody see Brian Arnold's Twitter video regarding bloodstock sales and the sales? I think the Twitter account of Brian is at Hey Arnold B, if anyone hasn't seen it. So
no, I've not seen it. You need to tell me what it was.
Did you see it, Tony?
Yeah, it's basically he took the piss out of the bloodstock agents and all the buzzwords in an 80-second sketch. It was highly amusing. Anything you've heard quoted from a bloodstock agent, he put it in there in a very amusing way. So
I should look that one up.
It's sales season at the moment, so I imagine it's been quite a bit. But yeah, it was very good. Go and have a look at it if you can.
An idea for his next video for me would be jockeys who've just come in from a bottom grade handicap on a horse. They've told connections they've fancied and just finished 8th of 13. What do you say there?
what it's going to do next time out. Yeah,
yeah. So I've had a few good ones there myself over the years. But and then the other story I noticed there the other day, just to mention in the intro, was the Daily Mail had a go at covering Moosh tips. Don't know if you saw this. How do people pay that money for stuff like this? I do not know. But typical, I think, of just tabloid journalism, and I think it's one of the things that we all struggle with, conveying what's going on in gambling to people who don't really understand gambling. And just the way the article was written, from as basic as £40 times 2,000 times 12 doesn't equal 10.8 million.
I didn't do that, but I did think, wow, that's an easy way to make 10.8 million.
That Moosh probably supplied it.
You think you'd just literally just check the numbers, like put those three sums into your calculator, like and add them up. But
the weirdest element of the article was that he appears to have given an interview to the journalist, who was clearly doing a hatchet job. Yeah. So I mean, it's an odd one. That
it's a weird hatchet job as well, though, isn't it? It's like he probably gets more out of it than being covered in the paper than and online than the negative, I'd say. Like, it's one of these weird, you feed the beast, and
well, I mean, if those stories are true about the people that are following and the sums that they are gambling on the back of his tips, then frankly, there's no helping people, really.
Yeah,
it probably doesn't help, if some MPs read that story and see all the money that's awash in gambling. It probably doesn't help, actually. But it's I can only think people are following because they think, the tide must turn at some point, but they're probably so far out to sea at the moment. It's no good for them.
Tide, not spelled THAI, apostrophe D there. But moving on to the racing review, Darius. Darius. I think he won Pop Idol with back in the day. R.I.P.
I was waiting for you to say that. I shouldn't laugh.
Sorry. Go on, Tony. I'll let you.
Has he died, that fella?
He did actually die. Yeah, he was.
Wow.
He was in a car crash. I don't know why I know this. He was in a car crash about 15 years ago, and apparently he had some chronic pain, and he overdosed on some gas he was taking. I don't know whether legal or he was getting on the side. Hell. Yeah. So
this is a jolly start to a Monday, isn't
it? Yeah, let's move on to the horse racing with Bob getting chinned in the arc.
I'll take it on. Darius, who only made his debut in April, won the arc. Sounds like that was a good result for you, Anthony. Edging out Mini Hawk. Sounds like you had a fair few liabilities on that. So that was a good result for you and probably bookmakers. It was another race where it was very much a draw race. First four home were drawn 2, 1, 3, and 5. So you're going to have to mark up some runs from, down the field. Notably, my 125 to 1 each way swing finished 6th from stall 16. So that ran a huge race. He would have finished 3rd in another 50 yards or so. Came from bang last and actually recorded the 2nd fastest horse in the final 3 furlongs. So I think it was one of those bets that's probably one of my better bets, but I didn't get paid on it. So Arrow Ego was the horse in question. But I'm actually a good result for bookmakers there because Aidan O'Brien was having a very good day up until that point as well. Come on to the rest of Sunday in a moment. Saturday was a run through that. Notable performances. Fallen Angel won the Group 1 Sun Chariot, strung out like washing there in that race. George Scott won his first Group 1 with Cabello de Mar in the Prix de Cadran. And Sir Mark Prescott's got a very good prospect on his hands with the runaway Group 1 Prix de Rollo winner Consent. Talk of her being the next Alpinista and coming back for the Art next season. I must admit, she was wildly impressive, that horse. 3-year-old. Just abroad, Cardam won for Charlie Hills and Frankie Dettoria on Saturday night. That was a grade 2 sprint, quite valuable. And it just shows you how weak these international prizes are and why so many horses are going over to the States, etc. Salawi, a horse that was beaten off a mark of 99 at Goodwood in August. won the Grade 1 Canadian International for Hamad Al Jahani and the Waffenham Racing. So I wouldn't say a run-of-the-mill handicapper, but a fairly modest handicapper certainly in graded group terms.
How much would you get? How much would you get for that, Tony?
I will have a look there, but they're normally 250 plus. It might even be a lot more. I'll have a look when I'll have a look. I'll have a look once we've done with this and we go on to the topics. Just coming on to Sunday, I mentioned Aidan O'Brien had a very good start to the day. Won the first two Group 1 races for 2-year-olds with Diamond Necklace and Puerto Rico. They won the Boussac and Lagardère respectively. And there was a very good story actually with Asfora won another Group 1 sprint when she won the Abai, another Wellback winner at 9-4. There was a big story here was they left her passport at home, not in Australia, frankly, because we wouldn't have got it there in time. But they had to stick her passport in an Uber because the French authorities would not allow the horse to run without her passport, which is pretty much part of the course. And the Uber only got to the course a minute before the cut-off point. So I'm glad, and apparently that wasn't kind of like hyperbole. Apparently it was a minute and a half to the cut-off point before the Uber actually arrived. So yeah, I imagine whoever forgot that passport has used up one of their 9 lives actually, because can you imagine that? We did actually had a question on this. It was quite a funny one because Asfora was remarkably the first Australian horse to win in France. But Keith Nicholson said, how can they claim Asfora is Australian trained as she's been in the UK nearly all year? So yeah, it's she's obviously been over here most of the time the last 2 years. But
they do that, don't they? They send them over for like 3 months. You know, as a kind of minimum before these big races, don't they?
Yeah, it's like and
the other way around when we send them to Melbourne Cup, isn't it the same thing?
Yeah, it's like William Haggis. He'll send horses over for months on end. So obviously he's not training them, and the same goes to Charlie Appleby when they have an American base. They're nominally in his name, but he can't be training them. And just a couple of other Group 1 wins on Sunday. Jesse Harrington won with Bar Navarra in the Opera, and Marinara Charlie won the Foray. So that was a quick spin for all the weekend action, and I'm going to go and shut the window because someone's just drilling outside, as you can probably hear. So yeah, that's the racing review.
Very good. You're welcome to shut the window. I can't hear any drilling, but we'll drill into some topics now. Huh?
Very good.
Huh? Very good. Topic number 1 on our list, and you know how we're the Dower pod, but this is a real good news story in my opinion. So we'll give this the full shebang, or I'll try to as well. Topic number 1: ITV Racing keeps its racing contract until 2030. So ITV Racing will continue to broadcast Britain's biggest meetings to a terrestrial audience after securing a 4-year deal to show exclusive free-to-air coverage until the end of 2030. Guarantees 117 days of action a year across ITV1, ITV4, and STV, which I've never heard of, with all programming available on ITVX. Is
STV not the Scottish version?
Oh, is it?
No, maybe not actually.
You might be right.
I have half a feeling it is. Anyway, sorry, carry
on. The opening show, the Saturday morning preview package, will also remain part of the package. Tony, we'll move over to you.
Sorry, I'm just looking at that Solari. It won actually bang on 250 grand. So that's one occasion where I was actually right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a very good news. I mean, obviously ITV Racing isn't everyone's cup of tea, but obviously it's great news. We shouldn't take it for granted that, we have 2 dedicated racing channels and racing TV, all with that subscription and at the races. But yeah, it's obviously terrestrial is key. So it's obviously very good news that they've got it for the next 5 years or so. I was just wondering whether there was anybody else in the bidding process for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the past, the likes of other people have gone for it, Channel 4, etc. I just wonder whether there was, any competition for this. But regardless of that, it's obviously very good news.
Yeah, there was no mention of that, was there? And I don't know how you'd structure a bid if there's no competition as well. It's I don't know how
sealed envelope. I think probably the answer to that.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you have sealed envelope processes with when it's acknowledged there's one bidder? I don't know. Maybe
no idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely a good news story for the sport. We've seen not that they're 100% interlinked, but we've seen just greyhound racing interest wider fall through the floor when it was removed from Sky Sports, the main Sky Sports channels. Yeah, I think this is just, I think losing horse racing off terrestrial TV would be fairly catastrophic. So definitely a good. We can all give our opinions on what bits of what they do we like and don't like, but this is definitely a big win for the sport. So a positive news story to start us off. Moving away from positive news stories, topic number 2, Champions Full Gallop, set to return for what might be its final hurrah. So Chris Cook, writing, I presume in the Racing Post, has said, gripping mid-race drama, mucking around in the weighing room, an impressive number of F words, brackets, my own brackets, not contrived, close brackets, and lots of raw emotion were all on show on Thursday night as Series 2 of Champions Full Gallop was screened for the first time. Jump racing's biggest names, Twiston Davis, rubbed shoulders with glamorous celebrities at BAFTA's headquarters in London's Piccadilly at a red carpet premiere to raise anticipation for more episodes of the Fly on the Wall documentary. Are we excited, Mr. Stuart Moore?
Well, we weren't hugely impressed by the first series, were we? But a lot of the first series of things aren't very good and improve. They may have learnt from the first one, which was based, if I remember rightly, it was based on the trainers the trainers championship, and they followed Skelton and what's he called?
Paul Nicholls.
All the way up to the end, and then they both got chinned by Willie Mullins, who they basically had.
It obviously made a big impression on him. You can't remember that 16 times champion trainer.
Not remembering Paul Nicholls is not the fault of Champions Full Gallop. It's the fault of various other problems. Listen, it can't be. It won't get a third season if it's as badly structured, badly edited. I think rule 1, if you're going to use talking heads, don't use 6 of them in the space of 30 seconds, all saying the same thing. Just that's the real momentum killer for me, was the repetitive talking heads saying things like, it's the big one, like 6 different ways about every race that has ever taken place. So and I think the real thing is they've got to, it is difficult because racing doesn't really have a build up to much unless you count Cheltenham, and that doesn't I don't think that really works. So it's not like one of those football ones where after each game you can look at what's happening in the league and kind of have a continuing thread through it. They tried to use the Trainers Championship as a continuing thread, but it just wasn't very interesting. So it'll be interesting to see where they find the stories, I suppose, this time.
Yeah. Apparently they have ditched a lot of the talking heads from what I'm hearing. So that's a positive. I think, but that was an obvious change to make. Obviously there was the David Power Jockeys Cup in this is going to be in this episode, and I think the first episode airs on October the 17th, I believe. It'll be interesting to see how they position that, because basically Flutter were giving the top 6 jockeys £1.5 million between them. So So that's and obviously the strong suggestion was that Flutter effectively gave all the top jockeys this prize money in order to get them on board for better content. So in that context, it rings a little bit hollow if they're all a bit jokey and sweary, etc. Because obviously they'd be effectively.
There were a few instances, weren't there, where people thought that seemed quite contrived at the time, wasn't there? Was there a Nico de Boinville one with with him having a go at someone and then immediately apologising afterwards.
Yeah, it was Nico de Boinville having a pop at Paddy Brennan, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Because Paddy Brennan said, we'll never see Constitution Hill again, etc. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I mean, like you said, like most things, they'd have learned a lot from the first series, which is pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, but it remains a huge opportunity for the sport as well. I mean, it really is a fantastic opportunity if they do it well.
Yeah, it's just I think they've introduced a few younger jockeys and stuff like that. I'd like to see a lot more betting element to it because that adds a lot of spice, doesn't it? I mean, if you've got trainers going on there saying, yeah, we've laid this one out for this race, and it's retrospective, so they're not giving away any secrets that could impact on their finances. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. I mean,
it's also at the right time of year this time round, because I think last time they did it in the middle of the summer, didn't they? A documentary about the jumps, which didn't seem hugely, if you're trying to get people to go racing.
Yeah.
That did seem a bit odd. So yeah, at least we're now at the right time of year. And I think the other thing that is difficult is that there's an assumption that the most interesting people are the ones at the top of the game. And actually they're probably not, because it's all a little bit easy and kind of, more process driven. And and the interest is probably the interesting story is probably a little bit below that. And again, a lot of the sports documentaries that are good are about the sort of not top echelons of the game. So again, it might be interesting to see if they found a few more, perhaps slightly more charismatic individuals who aren't necessarily at the top of the game.
You made a good point there, because I'd like to see struggling jockeys and struggling trainers.
It's just more interesting.
Well, there are plenty to choose from.
Yeah, no, definitely. I did also enjoy Flutter trying to, the Paddy Power brands or whatever, trying to drum up some interest with their novelty, funny commentary around the video around. Here's a person who's not happy with anything. I hope that was for my own satisfaction. But
they having a pop up there?
I don't know. But I think they probably know it's not very good, and that's probably the best hope for getting some content out of it anyway. But you mentioned the David Power Jockeys Cup there. It's probably remiss of me not to have asked for it to be added to the running order. But David's wife Sabina passed away last week. Sabina would have been around the racecourse with David Power for all the big days and stuff like that. So thoughts with the extended Power family there. Topic number 3 on our running order. Racegoers at 19 British racecourses will be greeted by a new offer from November the 1st as Britbet takes over as host and operator for pool betting on some tracks from the Tote. The agreement involves the 16 racecourses run by Arena Racing Company, which include Doncaster, Chepstow, Linkfield, and Newcastle, as well as independents like Hexham, Newton Abbot, and Ripon. Tony Calvin, what a monumental deal this is for the gambling industry.
Judging from your tone, I don't think you were particularly enthused, were you? I asked because I didn't really understand it when I first read the press release, even though it had a Q&A. So I got in touch with them. It just seemed like a rebranding exercise from the Tote to Britbet, who I thought were interlinked anyway. But yeah, I got a few questions back. I'll quickly read it out. I did ask the most interesting thing I tried to get out of it when I was asking questions about if they could confirm our story of a few weeks ago, whether Chester is going to the Tote from Chester Bet, and they wouldn't comment on that. But yeah, they accepted it was largely a rebranding exercise on behalf of the 19 tracks. They could say the customers on course will see some new bet types offers, superfecta, pick 4, pick 6, but I wouldn't have thought they'll pick up because the win markets are pretty pitiful and the place markets are pretty pitiful, so I can't really see those picking up. I thought it was very curious about the relationship between the Tote and Brit Bet, so I asked a few questions about that. I just got the further these clarifications. Britbet is a partnership of the racecourses. They effectively own Britbet. All the profits made go back to the courses. Britbet have been granted the on-course betting rights of 56 courses, recently extended to 2030. What else was interesting in here? Not a lot. 37 of the courses agreed to carry on with a Tote hosting the pools on their races under the commercial terms offered. And 19 of the courses decided to go with the Totes, not to go with the Totes offer, and instead have asked Britbet to host the pools in their racing. Again, it's as clear as mud in some respect, because I thought the Tote owned Britbet, but apparently that's not the case. But essentially, it's a rebranding exercise at 19 courses, and the Tote have not just given up the art side of their business to Britbet. All very interesting, as I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah.
Not
good news for the price.
No, it sounds like a very. I did ask somebody out who's quite well versed in this area, and they said it's Britbet a big winners here, so it's obviously good news for them commercially. So well done them.
Very good. Let's see how they get on. Fair play. Good luck. Topic number 4 is the latest article from gambling's favourite ambulance chaser, Rod Davis. A landmark study. Landmark shows 1.4 million Britons have a gambling problem. Jesus. Like, where do we go from? Do we just move on to the next topic then?
Does Moosh have 1.4 million followers?
Yeah.
1.4
million. Jesus, just move that decimal point just to the other side of the 4 if you like. If you're gonna absolutely talk nonsense. An estimated 1.4 million adults in Britain have a gambling problem, according to landmark figures released days after the Chancellor hinted at plans to increase taxes on the gambling industry. I can just, without reading some of that nonsense, I can give some of my own perspective on this. Just I studied economics at university, and in my final year I looked a bit into various facets of the gambling industry, one of which was problem gambling stuff and some of the surveys that were done around problem gambling. And I just have it in my head that I really recall there were surveys that they were doing to capture problem gamblers at the time. And this was, I don't know how advanced they've become in the last 17 years or so. But the questions were like, you literally were asked 12 questions, and if you hit 5 or 6 of them, it was, oh, you're a problem gambler, basically. And some of the questions were like, do you think about when you're with family and friends, do you think about gambling? One of them was, have you ever lent money off anyone to gamble? And these are the similar questions like this. And then, but when I removed the word gambling and put Rochdale Football Club in there, I was a massive problem Rochdale Football Club follower. Have you ever lent money off them to go to an away game? Oh yeah, I have done that. When you're around family, you're constantly checking the score to see if they scored at some game. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, good bit. Like, where do you go? Like it's just this puritanical age that we probably have to live through until people wake up, I suppose.
I had a look at the most recent ones of this international scale. Again, it is done by I think it's 9 or 10 questions that they ask people, and if you get a certain score, one of the questions is along the lines of, when you have you ever tried to win back money that you lost on a previous time gambling, which just strikes me as an absolutely extraordinary sign of problem gambling. The other thing I think that's difficult with it is the question on what they call negative consequences. Did you experience negative consequences or negative? Or I think it's, how did you react emotionally the last time you bet? And it lumps in all types of betting together, this question. And I think you have to give it a score of like 0 to 10 or 0 to 9. But it doesn't define what negative means. So you might think, well, of course I had a negative reaction to my bet being unsuccessful. But how is that the same as, feelings of guilt or shame or, and so while I appreciate that, they've got to do something to try and measure this stuff, I think the idea that you can just announce that there are 1.4 million problem gamblers on the back of it is pretty problematic, actually. And it does seem just to be now that there are voices in this debate that are only interested in hearing bad things about gambling in order to justify higher taxation. And frankly, they will accept anything that's anti-gambling, as written in stone.
And all of these people do a massive disservice to people who have gambling problems. A massive disservice. They're absolute scumbags as far as I'm concerned.
Just on a related subject, how damaging did we think Rachel Reeves's ITV interview last week was when she said about gambling operators
fair share
have to pay their fair share? How damaging do we think that was, or how big an indicator?
It's hard to know, isn't it? Because she's for the birds. Whenever I listen to her speak, like she's just not wired right.
She might not be, but she is also Chancellor. So
I know that. Yeah,
she is the one that will. It's not a good sign, is it?
Bring back quasi-quarting.
I'm fully aware. There's just a dearth of talent, isn't there? An absolute dearth of talent.
Well, they're pushing it an open door, aren't they, in the public consciousness?
100%.
And that has been a success for the gambling reform, as they call themselves. That has been a success. The Guardian has been heavily behind it. Published an ex-Prime Minister in Gordon Brown and the ex-Chancellor saying that this is a very good idea. And the money's got to come from somewhere. And funny enough, it all goes back to that something one of them published ages ago, which is a really unscientific bit of polling, which was what would you prefer if there's a bigger tax burden? What would you like it to come from? And it was like children's homes, Battersea Dogs Home, gambling. It wasn't quite that bad, but it wasn't far off.
Such loaded nonsense questions.
Quelle surprise if you ask a whole lot of people who don't know the first thing about gambling, other than that Denise Coates makes an absolute fortune of it, because you read that in the biggest taxpayers every year. Then it's really easy just to think, oh yeah, we need the money from somewhere. Why shouldn't it come from Denise Coates?
Unintended consequences, and let's try and decimate an industry that that makes sense, and championed by the Guardian, who every time you click on the website beg you for £2. The fucking business model doesn't work. Number 6 on the running order, Cheltenham has acted to stop the slump of Irish racegoers by introducing a 4-day festival pass for those based outside of Britain at a reduced cost of £299, which is a saving of £118, which will get you 3 Guinness at the festival. I think this is a good move. I have various Irish addresses if someone wants to send me 325 quid. No, I think this is a good move. One of the last sentences was, there is also an international and Irish annual membership, which includes all 16 fixtures for 435 quid. I cannot imagine there's a single person in Ireland who's not connected to a yard going to 16 fixtures at Cheltenham over the year. But I think this is a positive overall. Definitely having a go at doing something. Will it move the needle? Not 100% sure. It'll be the deciding factor whether people will go for 4 days or not. But it's a nudge in the right direction, and I think doing what they can. I don't know if you guys agree.
Actually, yeah. I'm just thinking, do you stand at all the Cheltenham fixtures or just the festival?
I'll be honest with you. They split it as festival and non-festival at Cheltenham. So the November meeting is classed as a festival. So we can stand at 7 meetings a year. As an Irish bookmaker or an Irish-based bookmaker, our on-course operations based in Ireland. As with several bookmakers that operate from Ireland that have pitches at Cheltenham, they go to Navan on that weekend because it doesn't make sense. The November meeting seems to be getting lighter and lighter from a bet perspective, and it's just, we're not going to go over, I don't think, in November. We'll probably just go in March. and some of the Irish bookies. I presume the English lads will turn up, but the Irish bookies go to Navan in general. I think it's the Troy town. Question number 7, or topic 7, is racing a closed shop? And this is just a few comments from somebody else who's paid probably too much money for some of the conclusions in this article. Racing must be prepared to take a far more radical approach to engaging new and younger audience, according to one of the driving forces behind cricket's The 100, which is absolutely rubbish. Rob Calder, who was commercial director for the competition, told the Racing Foundation conference at York on Thursday that the sport too often felt like a closed shop to outsiders. He's used some of his big thing seems to have been changing the name of the Premiership Rugby to the Prem. He's gone for all the old classics, like changed furlongs to meters. Another fellow who thinks promoting jockeys is the answer.
I know.
Never met a jockey is my conclusion. It's I don't know.
Might change his tune after he watches full Gallop 2 episode.
Yeah.
I think my favourite part of the answer...
Kids need to watch racing on YouTube or something. I think was another good part.
There's a brilliant one about 9-year-olds having smartphones and that racing needs to try and engage them at that point. And you're like, you realise this is a quite heavy gambling product.
Yeah.
So there was the 100's not been. I love the way that people just say, "Oh, it's only purists that don't like it." That's the attack on any of these things, is if you don't. But the 100 is not a very good spectacle.
No.
I don't follow a ton of cricket, but it seems to have done quite significant damage to the county cricket
100%
league, and also gets in the way of Test cricket as well, by all accounts. So, and yet the 100, I think, have tried to claim some of the credit for the resurgence of Test cricket. Nothing to do with the last 2 major Test matches being absolute belters. I think 100 have said that, have implied that they have generated greater interest in Test cricket. So yeah, I'm not sure that there were brilliant ideas coming out of that, and it just goes to show that when you sort of think, well, let's get someone from outside of racing who promotes other sports. You do need some vestige of understanding. The answer is horses. It's just not jockeys. People don't invest in jockeys in the way that they might in 1 or 2, but again, it's very small small groups that get very excited about jockeys. It's just not going to work.
Right that most 9-year-olds wouldn't have smartphones, would they? These days,
that's one of the things that I feel like. I've got a 6-year-old, and I'm like, now is it 3 years away before I'm under pressure here? Like I was
that can't be right. Can
keep them up. They wouldn't have the internet, though, would they?
The other day, I had to ask my 7-year-old what the parent lock code was on the television, so I could get onto it.
Classic.
So I'm not sure I'm going to win that one.
Oh, it just occurred to me then when we were talking about the cricket. Kate Miller, formerly of William Hill back in the day, has gone from head of comms at English cricket to was it Tottenham?
She has gone to Tottenham.
Head of comms at Tottenham, yeah. I remember her being very kind of ambitious when she was second to David Hood at Hills back in the day.
Oh yeah. She tried to get me the sack.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah,
for slagging Hills on Twitter when they wouldn't let me 14s Menorah for the champion hurdle or something like that.
Yeah. I like the sound of it. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been her first rodeo. Right.
Oh dearie me. That's conjured up a very unappealing.
Okay, moving on. Number 8, Richard Desmond legal action over National Lottery Award to begin at the High Court. Media billionaire, some belting lines in this. The media billionaire Richard Desmond will begin a bitter courtroom battle with the Gambling Commission this week that could cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of pounds. We could stick another few quid on that GGY levy if you like. In a row over the license to run the National Lottery. the article I read now, it's not in this version of the running order, but it was like Richard Desmond, of famed titles, the Daily Express, and then the second one was Asian Babes, which which I find quite funny. Allwyn, a new vehicle ultimately owned by the Czech billionaire Karel Komárek, won the 10-year license in 2022 and has run the draw since 2024. The first time in the National Lottery's 30-year history they've been run by a company other than Camelot. I assume this one, I think he was offered 10 million quid, was he, in a settlement? And he said, no chance. We're going to court. So he must fancy himself, Harry.
Yeah, sounds like it. As you say, 10 million is not peanuts to be offered, even in the context of these of litigation of this size. It's very hard to know what. I mean, this is competition and tendering law. It's very narrow, esoteric stuff about how you about the fair way of tendering huge projects like this. He says that he was strung along and spent lots of money trying to meet criteria that when secretly he had no hope. He says that the Czech company that have, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but who have ultimately won it, were in fact inappropriate people. The commission didn't do its due diligence, and there are links to Russian money. And I think there's also an argument that they maybe misapplied the criteria to his bid. I mean, the Gambling Commission's view appears to be his bid was really bad, basically, and he had no hope. And that is a defense to an extent in itself, because even if he wins and it's ultimately decided that, okay, it wasn't a fair process, but you weren't going to win it anyway, or you were very unlikely to win it, then any damages he wins are likely to be relatively minimal, because the law will compensate him for his loss of opportunity rather than. And if your opportunity is very small, then you're going to get relatively small compensation. I think it's one the Gambling Commission really don't want to lose, however, regardless of what damages comes out of it at the end of the day, because this is a major embarrassment if you can't get the tender process right and you get sued by the chap that Private Eye referred to for years as Dirty Desmond. It would be very embarrassing. That's not to say they will lose. Of course, we don't. This is people take bad cases to court, and particularly angry rich people. We'll see.
I think I recall reading at the time he'd spent roughly 10 million quid on his own bid or something like that. I think he'd spent quite a lot of money trying to get this process. Now, I always think if people are willing to spend that amount of money to acquire something, why's the bloody state not running it itself? Why does it have to go out to tender? I don't understand.
I think it was a point. I know. I think it was a point that Neil Channing made the other day. It's also, why has it gone to a Czech company? This is a license to print money.
Yeah.
Why is it being handed over to a? I appreciate it probably is logistically a nightmare running a national lottery.
Yeah.
And there probably aren't many people that can do it. But and I'm not saying that the answer is to hand it to Richard Desmond by any stretch. But you would have thought that there should be an element of trying to keep it, in within the British financial system. But
yeah, I thought I don't know if you have any opinion on this. I thought one of the interesting things I read about the case as well was the UKGC's lawyers sent 4,500 pages of evidence to the opposite team that they didn't need to, and then that can be
horror story.
Like
it's Hogan Lovells, who are a very, very highly respected city firm.
Yeah.
And someone clicked send on the wrong, or clicked a link, sent a link to the wrong online file, and disclosed a whole lot of documents which were, I think, privileged. Privilege means they might be relevant, but for various reasons you don't have to disclose them to the other side or the court. And the usual reason for that is that they are internal discussions about litigation, very often with lawyers. And the most sort of terrifying element of it is that once you waive privilege, even in a sort of catastrophic mistake by that, one of the prerequisites for privilege is the information has to be confidential. And so if you make it non-confidential, it's no longer covered by privilege. So a mistaken disclosure is very often treated as a waiver of privilege. And that seems to be what's happened here. So thousands of these documents, which should not have been seen by the other side or by the court. I think they had a hearing on this, and I think a few documents the court said no, those go back. So it's all slightly artificial because, of course, the court, it's out there. The other side's seen it. It's about whether you can deploy it at trial with a trial judge, and I think that the court is in an interim hearing. Yeah, most of it was loud, but at an interim hearing, I think a few of them were, and we don't know what those are. I don't think, and I don't think we know what any of this goes to. But it's a nightmare for the lawyers involved. Horrible, you feel very sorry for them.
Yeah, I'd say so. And just for my own interest, I was actually going to ask you about that. Can the UKGC sue their own legal team after this for that mistake? I was just wondering.
Well,
is it negligence?
You'd struggle to argue that's not negligent, but the question would be really you'd need to understand the facts around it, of course. But assuming it was just sending the wrong thing, I think you'd have to realistically show that negligence had an impact on the outcome of the litigation. So if they lose it, and it's arguably about stuff that was disclosed that shouldn't have been, yes, I think there would be a case against the lawyers and insurers, but that's a lot of ifs. We don't really know what's happened here, and I'd say it's a long way on. They haven't. I don't think they fired them, so they're staying on as the lawyers. Hogan Lovells. And Hogan Lovells are a really highly respected city firm, so it is just one of those horrible things that happens when
It's probably even more embarrassing than when I was at Paddy Power. One of my colleagues inadvertently sent a picture of, it was when Sean Massey became a linesman in the Premier League, sent a picture of her with a Henry the Hoover, waving a Henry the Hoover instead of a flag, and sent it to the whole company.
Oh no.
That was pretty bad.
When you were at Paddy Power, did they not just turn that into an advert?
Yeah, well, he was grand in fairness, but he's very well liked and very good. So, yeah, I don't know how that could end these days. But go on, Tony. You were going to say something then?
Yeah, before
Paddy Power one, I remember. Sorry, just very quickly. Remember the Paddy Power one? They got in trouble for a couple of popes ago when they were supposed to be the first African. They was favourite. Do you remember this one, AK?
I do.
It was your money back if the Pope ain't black, I think was the tagline. They got into a lot of trouble for that one, I think. They probably didn't. But,
probably not as controversial as money back if he walks for Oster Pistorius, I'd say. But
oh God, I don't remember that one.
That was probably the one that was ended up being too far.
There was also a good one of a speeding car, and there was like a load of old people.
That's the old one. That's brilliant. That was even pre my time there. Like that was like mid 2000s. That was stupid.
They priced up who was going to be run over. It was great.
The advert was just brilliant. I thought the ads back in the day were just better than they are now, to be honest with you. Like it was people. It was old people crossing the road with like Zimmer frames and a car in the distance coming towards them, and it had prices above the heads of the old women crossing the road. And the other good one that was very controversial back in Ireland in the day was a picture of the Last Supper.
Oh God, yeah.
And they were all playing cards at the table, basically. All 12 of them, and Judas or whatever were playing cards and poker or whatever. Very good. Can only imagine what that would have been like in Ireland in the early 2000s. That was very ballsy, I'd say. Right, we're on to the questions anyway. I don't know.
Just before we get on the questions, it's not on the running order, but Plumpton have just sent out a press release in the last half hour or so. I haven't really read it yet, but I'll read out the first paragraph. It's headline: Plumpton Racecourses launches grassroots campaign to redistribute the levy and safeguard British horse racing. The first paragraph reads: Plumpton Racecourse has today submitted its report to securing racing's future to HM Treasury, setting out proposals for a redistribution of the horse racing betting levy. The report builds on analysis by the Social Market Foundation and makes the case for a reallocation of how betting tax is distributed between the Treasury and the levy. Quoted are Tom Saville, and Director of Plumpton, and Dr. James Noyes. So I imagine that story is going to be breaking throughout Monday. I'm not sure how bigger implications or how big a story that will be, but
No, it's a pretty extraordinary state of affairs, isn't it? Where those people are, making submissions as to how horse racing should be funded. It really is quite extraordinary.
I'm just reading it now. I mean, like you say, I mean, on what basis, what right have they got to?
I mean, I think Tom Savile has every right as someone with an economic interest in it, but I just think that the people he's basing it on are, they're pretty. I think fair weather friends at the moment is a reasonable conclusion, because they've not shown much interest in horse racing until they found they couldn't budget, and a budget rather than budget, and it just. It's just astonishing state of affairs that they are now making submissions to the government and the Treasury about how the levy should operate. It's just, yeah.
Where did they get the confidence?
Lost for words, really.
Where did they get the confidence from? Tom Savile, like, fake it till you make it. Still waiting for you to make it. Questions. Jake says, I would be interested to get Harry's view on-course bookmakers advertising each way terms on the board and then offering win only when a bet is requested. My view is that a bookmaker offering win only to certain clients or for particularly big bets is standard risk management behavior. But if the behavior became systematic, i.e., vast majority of each way bets were refused, even to small stakes, then at some point it potentially becomes bait and switch.
Yeah. So, I mean, the legal position is that it's the same as when you go into a shop and you see a price on a product. The shop is not obliged. That's not an offer that you're capable of acceptance. You take it up to the till, and you essentially make the offer to buy, as a matter of contract law, to buy it. They accept your offer to buy it, and that's binding offer and acceptance. Money changes hands. It's the same thing with a bet. It's what's called an invitation. Effectively what's called an invitation to treat, which is different from an offer. Why that's important is that an offer is, if accepted, a binding contract. An invitation to treat is not a binding contract because it can't be accepted. What it is it's basically saying, come and do a deal with me, and these are the kind of terms that I am willing to do it on. So it allows you to change it completely. Basically, you can say, I'm not going to sell you that orange, but here's a Ferrari, for 100. You can do that. I mean, as a matter of contract law. So that's not remotely binding, the odds offered. There are two reasons not to do the bait and switch. One is obviously reputational. If you get a reputation for just doing that the entire time, people are going to stop bothering to come up and ask for you. But the other is, I think that in the case of gambling, it would become a regulatory issue because, of course, one of the licensing principles is that gambling has to be conducted fairly. That is creeping into the game much more slowly than gambling harms got into it. But I think that if you did that, the bait and switch that the question asker asked about, as a sort of tactic to get people to come into your shop or onto your site or to your on-course business, you would find eventually, I think that the commission would say, you got to stop doing that because it's not fair.
Yeah, I've pretty strong opinions on this, to be honest with you. I think when you're online and you've got people just repeatedly doing the bad each way betting and stuff like that, they tend to get closed, and we'd be the same. Online, your prices are feed prices as well. If you're stood at the track 15 minutes off and you have control over your own prices and you're just turning away everyone going win only, you're reputationally not just damaging yourself, you're damaging the industry and the people around you. And I think those guys are absolute charlatans as far as I'm concerned. Like, you've factored the each way part of the bet.
So so is that a real problem with?
You should have to display win only. Like, that's the way in Ireland. If you're not taking each way bets, you have to display a win only sign that you win only on this race. There's certain bookmakers that do in Ireland. If you get a crappy each way race, you'll see a bookmaker like Tony Desmond would be a good example in Ireland. He just won't offer each way. He'll display win only on the board and be slightly bigger prices. And I don't have a problem with that. It's the guys that are just putting the win only prices up and then having each way terms. And then when you go up to them and giving you a bet on the show with your own prices, manually controlled by yourself, I think that's just, it damages the game. And like I sit here and slag the Tote and stuff, but people who do that damage their on-course bookmakers as far as I'm concerned. And you can't get on-course bookmakers to agree with anything. There should be self-policing. There should be some embarrassment with it, but evidently not still on occasion.
Well, that is something a regulator should step in, because that isn't fair to be getting people
fair.
coming up over and over again.
It's not fair.
And then telling them they can't have, knowing before they've even arrived. It's one thing making the decision when they get there because of the terms of the bet, but actually just knowing before they get there, yeah, we're just going to say win only when you get here. That should be stopped.
It happened to me at Windsor on the Monday before Cheltenham, asking for an e-trade bet and just being told win only. The problem is when you're saying reputational damage, I don't think it massively individually. There's massive individual reputational damage because on-course bookmakers are essentially sole traders in the main.
Yeah.
And the client base is not a client base that you don't have to walk past the shop on the street every day. There's kind of a passing trade. You've still got to treat people right, as far as I'm concerned. It's not good enough. The people who do that, they are in the minority as well. I would say on-course bookmakers tend to be fairly sound, from my experience. Timmy Birchall, any chance the traders price up a weekly market on over and under AK mentions of the black market on the podcast? I didn't even mention it when we talked about James Noyes there. So I think under 0.5 backers currently in Clover, apart from reading out that sentence. Dean says, a while back, AK gave a very positive reference to the Breeders' Cup, specifically San Diego. I'm going this year. What does he recommend by way of restaurants and nightlife? I loved it, to be honest. I love San Diego. I've been to Del Mar and Santa Anita. I've been Santa Anita twice and Del Mar once. I don't particularly like Mexican food though, as well. But it's a great spot. I had one of my best trips ever, just with a group of lads, and we had 10 days. And we stayed in. We were very lucky. One of the lads, family members, uncles and stuff, had a limousine. Not that we were in a limo or anything, but they had a limousine company. They used to drive John Rahm about, Phil Mickelson. It was like a big business. And we ended up taking a car off them and driving from. We went to an LA. We went to a Golden State LA Lakers game. Sat courtside. We went to the Breeders' Cup, and then we drove like 6 hours to Vegas through the desert and stuff like that. Just like one of them unbelievable trips with the lads. It was absolutely brilliant. Individual places, I can't remember any of them, but we stayed in La Jolla, which is one of the nicest places I've ever stayed in my life. Right next, it's close to Torrey Pines Golf Course. Just on every. Whereas Newmarket, it feels like every second shop is a charity shop or a bookies. La Jolla, every second shop was an art gallery, which gives you some kind of idea of the wealth on display around there. It was absolutely class, unbelievable. But I don't know any specifics. Any views? Frequented San Diego or the Breeders' Cup or anything?
Yeah, I've been to Del Mar. Went there a couple of times. Yeah, lovely place. Like you, I can't remember any places per se, but yeah, a great place. And if you're on the beach there's a train that comes across along the beach, just literally overseeing the beach and stuff. But that was quite entertaining. But yeah, no specifics, unfortunately, mate. Sorry.
If you're ever at Santa Anita, I'd recommend Clocker's Corner, and just getting up in the morning and going out there at like 4:30 in the morning and. Yeah, without being too weird about it, like watching the sunrise over horses working, it's actually class. Steve Tilley says, what could the Gambling Commission do to improve things for bettors who do not have a gambling issue? Harry.
They could, I think it's pretty obvious, they could start to emphasize the fairness element of their licensing objectives. I think things are getting better in many ways, but I do think that the noise around problem gambling does drown out the voice of the healthy punter, and I think as a result of that, the industry is still catching up with other industries in terms of the value or how to treat customers. Really, it definitely has improved a lot since I've been doing this, or involved in any litigation for or against bookmakers. It's definitely improved a lot, but it's behind problem gambling because of the noise about problem gambling. You know, there are no articles in the Daily Mail or the Guardian about, or very few about the difficulties that punters can face with getting paid, for example. I think Rob Davies did once do one article on that a few years back, and I think it's one of the most read articles he's ever written. But it is drowned out by him, by the Guardian, by everyone. That stuff with stories about problem gambling, because, you know, the Guardian really is a campaigning newspaper nowadays, and it's a campaign, whereas, you know, fairness for functional punters just doesn't have quite the same ring to it in those corridors. So that's what I think could change. It's just that that element of the licensing objective could have a bit more weight thrown behind it.
I have two things. One of them on your website and on my website and on my app, it says at the bottom you are licensed by the UK Gambling Commission. It says the license number and stuff like that. I'd like it to be compulsory that goes through to some kind of website that shows people that you are actually licensed in the UK. So people have some kind of instead of just displaying it, you're basically just trying to divert people into regulated gambling and understanding that they're betting with a regulated punter. So it's more work on that. I
think that's a very good point, and I think they need to go a step further. I think there needs to be an advertising campaign to explain to people. I think a lot of people don't even know the black market exists and find themselves on black market websites. And I think that you need adverts somewhere. You know, we've got a lot of safer gambling adverts all over the place.
Yeah,
but we've got nothing that tells people that the black market is a real risk. And if you're not in control of it, which the Gambling Commission isn't, then I think that it should feel obligated to make people, to have a campaign to make people aware of it and spend some money on that.
Harry's just bust the under black market 0.5 wide open.
Sorry. I know.
I counted 4 there, so yeah.
I was 20s on in the match bet, and I'm going to get chinned. This is interesting. But no, the other thing I'd like to see is just more of an understanding and appreciation of. I think there's a lot of things where theory is good and reality is bad, and just understanding the consequences of some things. I think the biggest difference between the regulated market and the unregulated market is it's actually friction. It's friction is the biggest thing, and everything we bring in the UK gambling market adds friction. And this is a world where people do not want friction under any circumstances. And just being aware of that and understanding that, and it's I don't think there's enough thought in some of the stuff there, or retrospective analysis even as well. The punter, great name. Any insight into the first race at Southwell on Thursday? Jet Patrol out from 4 to 11 to 8 to 11 and ran like a drain and pulled up. It stinks. Drains usually do stink. Anything there, Tony?
Yeah, Stewart's report said it bled from the nose, so that answers that one. Right, ran badly.
Did I see a comment of him saying, that same customer saying that the horse in the next was favourite from the same yard, and that bled from the nose as well?
It did say something subsequent to that, but I mean, as for specifically about that horse, I mean, the drift is pretty much neither here nor there, but you'd hope so anyway. But yeah, it bled from the nose, so that explains the poor performance.
Very good, very good. David Brown, racing builds apprentice structure around learning. Why does it abandon that logic when disciplining young riders? Tyrese Cameron just got a 35-day ban, more than Kevin Stott, for the same whip misuse. Where's the developmental support? Apprentices should be retrained, not sidelined. Probably go to Harry on that one.
Yeah, so I think usually there is an element of retraining at that level where they're usually sent back to the British Racing School. I think for apprentices, I'm not a big fan of any jockeys being deprived the ability to do their job for infractions of the rules of racing. But there obviously has to be a disincentive, and the only other disincentive really is financial. And none, at that end of the game, that probably hits them just as hard. It amounts to the same thing. So I don't think we want to see fines sort of taking the place of days off. So it's very difficult. But the whip rules are what they are. I think the vast majority of jockeys are able to deal with them, even if they don't particularly agree with them. And unfortunately, I think that means that the ones that just can't have got some work to do, really. And certainly, there should always be extra training available, particularly for junior jockeys. But I think there pretty much is. In fact, as I say, I'd be quite surprised if that 35-day ban doesn't involve being sent back for a day or two at the British Racing School.
Yeah, 9 of them were suspended, but I did have a look at it, and it did seem a little bit harsh. But yeah, there has to be a deterrent. But I'm not a big fan of these big number of days off, because not only does it obviously affect them financially, it affects their relationship with trainers and owners. The horses they ride, they might lose the ride and then not get it back. So there's a double whammy element to it. But yeah, I tend to agree with David's the way he was leaning.
I just find it all such a weird topic that if it wasn't for these massive long stints of bans, just won't even hear about this stuff. It's just a non-issue being made into an unbelievable issue, pretty much, or it's massively overblowing it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is, but then there is also an element of the sporting integrity of it, which I think sometimes gets underplayed. If you're using your whip more often than your competitors, you're taking a sporting advantage over them in breach of the rules of racing as well. So I think sometimes that's underplayed. There has to be a proper deterrent to stop people breaking the rules in circumstances where, forget the welfare stuff, because I think we're largely agreed the whip doesn't hurt. But I think we also agree that if you use a whip more, if you use a whip 7 times and someone else used it 5 times, you've got an advantage over them in a race.
Yeah. Well, that's a fair point. Jace, yeah, rules are. I think it's just the rule and the numbers and us more than that. But yeah, I do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think 35 days off for apprentices is not particularly comfortable. Conditionals is not particularly comfortable. Yeah.
Jason Jackson, watching the 4:35 at Tote and typing this. Now that's a brilliant first sentence as far as I'm concerned. Like the rage he must be feeling there. He's watching the race and he's typing it like. I love it. The start, first debate, that horse didn't want to start, got lined up, jinked and dumped the jock. To me, that should never have lined up. But how do you play this in running, as you have no clue if it's classed as a runner? The first of many.
Yeah, I asked Matthew Mantle about this. He basically trades every single race in running off the at the races pictures as well. I think Simon Knott's done a couple of interviews with him. So I asked Matthew about this because obviously I wasn't watching UKGC yesterday. And Matthew said, as I understand it, horses will only be non-runners if they are prevented from having a fair start rather than causing the problems themselves. In his opinion, horses like today's have to be given the chance to race and have to be declared as runners. What's the alternative? Have the starter withdraw every horse that looks like it may refuse to race? I'm not sure that's viable, to be honest with you. So I don't know the details of this particular case, and I haven't watched the start. But if Matthew said there was no problems, then I would imagine that there wasn't any problems here. Because, like I said, he trades every single race in running under the sun. So he's very clever.
Again, he trades in running using ATR pitches.
Yeah. And I must admit, I haven't. He's done 2 different interviews. I mean, he did an initial one and a follow-up one, and he explained the rationale by the fact that he can still win with operating on a 10-second delay against others. Don't ask me. Don't, just go and have a listen to the interviews with Simon. But yeah, he seems to make it pay okay.
Right.
How good would he be with a drone?
Jesus Christ.
Be dangerous.
See the future. Should be Should be employed as like Mystic Meg on the new national lottery.
Like I said, I imagine he's kind of like anticipating the pitfalls and the mistakes that others are just about to make because he knows the horses. He knows them so well that he knows if they're going to fall in a heap at 2 furlongs out over a 3 mile 2 trip. I don't know, but he makes it pay clearly.
Radio.
You want to take him on, don't you, Anthony? Get your arse spanked.
I don't know. I've never known a situation where anyone is embracing latency. But yeah,
I think so. I apologize if that's not true, but I'm pretty sure it is.
No, some savants walk amongst us. David Dunn, is Mark Walsh injured? That's a very tame last question on the running order, that one.
Yeah,
maybe not for Mark.
We've lost our under overs on the hour, but by some considerable margin. Quick one here then. David Dunn, is Mark Walsh injured? Answer from Dan Heap. He's Mark Walsh is aiming to return to race riding next month, November, having been on the sidelines since the start of August due to a damaged vertebrae. So,
there we go. David Dunn,
injured and he's back next month.
Once saw David Dunn score 3 penalties against Rochdale for Blackburn in a League Cup game. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Didn't he marry some good-looking girl from Emmerdale?
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
What was she called? The blonde one. Go on, Harry. You know this, don't you?
I don't. I'm trying to picture David Dunn. I think I might be confusing him with Richard Dunn.
That was a joke. Sammy Winward.
All right.
Yes, I think no. That was the Brookside one, dark hair, wasn't it?
Was she called Samantha? She had blonde hair anyway. Oh, she was very good looking from memory.
Carry on. It will be 2 hours at this rate if we're trying to get.
Yeah, I can't. I found David Dunn nutritionist. So
give me a second.
Let's leave it.
Is it David Donald Duck Dunn from the Blues Brothers? Is it? No, let me go on then. David, just wrap up and I'll have a look.
Give me a second.
Dunn wife.
I'm just having a look here. Why is Richard Dunn coming up first?
That's exactly what he played.
David Dunn was brilliant. He was a quality midfielder.
David Dunn, Emmerdale. David Dunn wife not doing anything. You were right. Sammy Winward.
Aye. What a shout.
Yeah.
She looked like now. Sorry. We'll carry this one on after the pod.
Yeah.
Very good. Fair play. A resounding 6 from Mr. Calvin. That's the end of the racing room.
I watched Strictly. I watched Strictly last night. Actually, I was a bit pissed though. Why are we doing that again? that idiot Boom Bosch merchant went out.
Yeah, I saw. My wife watches it. I saw him being. He looked like something from the 7th Sphere of Hell. In some sort of. He looked like he'd been wrapped up in tin foil and painted orange. It was quite a sight to behold.
There was quite a few. I googled him on Twitter this morning, and there was quite a lot of glee and quite a lot of few Bosch. You're out, Bosch.
Jesus, very good. Right, that's the end of it. That's the end of the racing room. An interesting.
I think that is a new low. It's us just sitting there all googling Emmerdale actresses at the end of the podcast.
That usually happens when we go off.
Bring back a professional presenter, if you ask me.
Indeed, we get Ronan back next week when he returns from insert place name here.
He's coming back from a wedding, I think.
A wedding,
right?
Very good. That's the end of the racing room. AK's Big Prices Tab, etc. Download the app. Have a bet responsibly. See you next week.